What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bourbon and Bets. I'm your host, Zach Stonerock, and joining me again on today's show, I got Mr. Avery Cunningham. Avery, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Zach. How are you this morning?
Doing really well. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. For the listeners and viewers, they're probably taking this in on Sunday just because of, editing process and different things like that. But this Saturday is a beautiful Saturday. Got some running around to do. College football's back on today.
Yes.
So we're not going to deep dive too much into that just because those games will be played before this comes out. But it's a good feeling having some true, like, meaningful football back on TV. Looking at the preseason, I mean, obviously preseason is very meaningful for those guys trying to make the roster and trying to, change the trajectory of their family and different things like that. So it's meaningful for them. However, for us viewers, it's not quite must-see TV typically. So excited to have some football on. We got a few Big Ten games on today, a couple MAC teams playing. So it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. How are you doing on this wonderful Saturday?
I'm good, man. It's a little cloudy out here. Just glad it's the weekend. Relax a little bit. Chill out. For the weekend. Probably get some stuff done around the house and all that stuff. But it's good to be. It's feel good to be Saturday. Not to clock into work after a pretty long week. But yeah. So no complaints over this way, Zach.
Awesome. Well, First of all, I want to thank all the viewers. Got a lot of messages on YouTube. Thanks for the comments on YouTube. We got a lot of Facebook messages and some Instagram messages. A lot of people really enjoyed the previous conversation about the AFC West and some of the running backs in the NFC East. A lot of people were on board with what we were saying. So that makes us feel good that we have a pretty good temperature gauge on what other people are thinking. Looking forward to seeing how all those things play out. But on today's episode, we're going to focus more so on our teams. So I am, for the listeners out there who are new to the show, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. Avery, Cincinnati Bengals fan. What?
Who that?
I got nothing, man. They're
what's y'all saying? Keep pounding or something like that?
Whoa, keep pounding, man. Show some respect to Sam. Show some respect to Sam Mills, all right?
So that's what that's from. Okay, so yeah. I didn't know the background of that. So yes, rest in peace to Sam Mills, great player.
This guy's reckless.
I didn't know, man.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not editing that out either, though. So
that's fine. Hey, that was
the more you know. The more you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I apologize to the Mills family. I didn't know it was
Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
Hall of Famer Sam Mills. Come on.
Absolutely. Great player.
But so we're going to focus on Cincinnati Bengals, so their win totals and the Carolina Panthers and their win totals for the season. But then we're also going to focus on some of the key players and some of their season stat bets. So we'll be looking at Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase for the Bengals, and then we'll be looking at Baker Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, and DJ Moore for the Panthers. All that being said, let's go ahead and dive into it. You ready?
I'm ready. Hey, speaking of college football, I know last week I forget. I kind of lost track of all your picks last week. I know you said that USC was going to win the Pac-12. One team that I'm interested in is Washington State this year. And the reason I'm interested in them, I think they have a potential. If he's not going to win Heisman, I think the guy's going to go. Going to start his name is going to start creeping into, in the draft, as a high draft pick. His name's Cameron Ward. He was a transfer from UIW. You know what UIW is, Zach?
UIW. University of Indiana Wesleyan?
No, it's University of Incarnate Word. So he was a FCS player last year. You look at his film, quick release, mobility, accurate, strong arm, all the things that you look for. So I'm really excited to see what he does, on this, on the FBS level at Washington State. So they might surprise some people this year. I know I sent you a screenshot. He's like 1,500, either 1,500 or 15,000 odds to win Heisman this year. So I went ahead and placed that bet.
Okay. Hey, if you're that confident, and if it is plus 15,000, be a nice little payout. Even for $1, you'd be making, what would that be, $150?
Yeah. So it was 15,000. So it's because I bet 10. So if he wins it, it's 15,000. So.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry,
So
1,500.
1,500.
1,500. Yeah, 1,500. Yeah.
So, hey, all them zeros sometimes, man. It's hard to know where to move that decimal to.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to who's their coach up there in Washington, Washington State. It was one of the Mikes, right? Like Mike Gundy or Mike Leach or something, and one of them got in trouble.
Yeah. So like Mike Leach is now in Mississippi State, I think. And
okay.
They just had the other head coach, he ended up getting fired because of COVID or his COVID. So I can't remember the name of their other head coach, but I know that Incarnate Word's head coach, got the OC job at Washington State, in which Cameron Ward followed him to Washington State. So
looks like we got Jake Dickert is the head coach.
Nice.
And then was it Eric Morris who was his offensive coordinator? Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting, man. Truthfully, they weren't even on my radar. So, okay. I'll keep an eye out for him. Maybe I'll tell you on that. I don't want that's huge odds. So yeah, I don't want you to win and then me not win. That's the worst feeling in the world. But
for sure. But yeah, obviously, USC should be the favorite with all the, they got about 1,500 transfers, and also a new head coach as well. So they got a lot of firepower over there. But we'll see how good that defense is going to be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, our main focus on this show is the NFL, but there's something special about college football. Just probably one of my favorite things is when Maction really starts later in the season. We have games all throughout the week. That's prime football season. That's the best time of the year. Period. No one can argue anything different.
That's why Zach loves Khalil Pimpleton. Everybody from Central Michigan. If you've been watching Hard Knocks, you know who he is. Khalil won Zach some money this year or last year. So
he did. Hey, Pimp is my guy. That's I hope he makes it. Always pulling for those guys that aren't supposed to be there, right? Like they come from they come undrafted, they get picked up by these teams, and when they're able to make that splash, that's something special. So I'm pulling for them.
Yeah, as you should. So I'm pulling for him too. But yeah, Cameron Ward, you heard it here first on Bourbon and Bets.
So Cameron Ward, all right. Hey, I would love to be able to circle back around to this audio clip at the end of the season and just replay that and post that on YouTube as its own clip and just put it on a loop. Just an hour of you saying that little second.
Yes, sir. That would be sweet.
All right.
Don't prove me wrong.
Yeah, now he's got all that weight on his shoulders. So hopefully he doesn't crumble under the pressure.
Right.
All right, man, let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to start with Cincinnati Bengals. So last year they were AFC North champs and they finished 10-7. This year, their over under for wins is 9.5. What are your thoughts there?
Definitely possible. The division is going to be going, like I said on the last episode, the division is going to be stronger this year. Especially when, Deshaun Watson or if Deshaun Watson comes back to the form or the Deshaun Watson that we used to know. But the Ravens is going to be better this year. They're not going to have it's very odd they'll get decimated by injuries like they were last year. Last year was pretty extreme. So Lamar's going to be back to secondary. Running backs. I think Gus Edwards going to be out for the first 4 weeks. I think he's on a PUP list. But, J.K. Dobbins I think is starting to make his way back. I'm not 100% sure about that. but they're going to be whoever's back there. They're going to have one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. So they're going to be better this year. Steelers, we'll see. I think some pieces that they'll be somewhat better. Obviously, they got T.J. Watt, Casey Hayward. The defense is going to be fine. They're going to be they're going to be the Steelers defense. See what kind of jump they make at quarterback, whether that's Pickett or whether it's Trubisky. I'm not sure about Rudolph.
Heard he's on the trade block.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So I'm not really sure what's going on with him, but I don't think he's going to have a shot at the starting quarterback. Where even though they say he is. So yeah, we'll see. But I do think Bengals will win the division. If I had to guess today, am I sure about that? Not 100% sure, just because the Ravens scare me. So I think they can, as far as like the 9.5 wins, I could see them going over 10 wins.
Gotcha. I mean, I agree with just about everything you say. I have them going well over 10 wins. I guess when I say well over, right now I have them at 11. Few games that I just was unsure of. The two games I was most unsure of is definitely the Ravens games, because as you said, I mean, the Ravens were decimated by injuries last year, so it's really hard to gauge what that team's going to look like exactly this year. Dobbins is coming back from an injury, and Dobbins, great running back, but when you're bouncing back from an injury, no one really knows exactly how you're going to come back. They lost Hollywood Brown, who was their primary receiver, even though they're not a heavy passing team. Still got Mark Andrews. They got my guy Devin Duvernay, who I'm hoping steps up this year and has himself a nice little season. But as far as their wins go, I have them beating the Steelers twice, just because I think I'm very indifferent about the Steelers. I think with what Trubisky did in Buffalo last year, it kind of gives everyone hope that he's going to come in and have a really good year. However, how he wrapped up his year in Chicago or his tenure in Chicago tells a different story. Now, is that Matt Nagy? Is that organizational issues? It's TBD, right? Like, we're still waiting to see how he does in the Steelers organization, which in my opinion is one of the most well ran organizations in the NFL. As much as I dislike their fans. But so I have 2 wins there. I have 2 wins against the Browns. Obviously we have Jacoby Brissett under center for now. Deshaun Watson's out for 11 games. And then I had them beating the Panthers, which that one was tough for me to have to verbally admit on this show. But I also have them beating the Cowboys, the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Falcons. So that puts us up there at 11. Let me make sure I did my math right there. That doesn't seem right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, that is 11. So I think there's a chance for 12 wins, possibly 13 if they can beat the Ravens twice. But I think 9.5 after what they did last season, 10-7 with a Swiss cheese offensive line. And they've made huge improvements on that offensive line. So I think going over 9.5 is a pretty solid pick there.
Yeah, I would agree. Browns also scare me, just because they, like, these past couple of years they struggled with beating the Browns for whatever reason. They still got a good defense. One of I'll probably say maybe the more underrated secondaries in the NFL. I mean, a lot of secondary just doesn't get a lot of credit. So and obviously they got Myles Garrett. You can argue, top 10, top 15 player in the league. One of the best edge rushers in the league. So that he's going. So I mean, they're going to have, like, their defense is going to have to carry him for a little bit. And Jacoby is serviceable.
Right.
So that scares me as well. As far as like the Browns and Bengals go. So I think, the Browns will probably beat them once, if not twice. I think they'll probably beat them at home and, be in a close game and whatnot. So yeah, most of the other picks I can see happen. I can also, even though the Ravens, I'm scared about the Ravens too, just because, how they're just decimated with injuries. But last year they dominated, like the Bengals dominated them twice, so I mean, maybe that happens again. Maybe they're just a bad matchup for them. So, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I think we're both in agreement, though, with the over, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So before we jump into the player props, let's jump over to the other side with Carolina. Carolina last year finished 5-12. Another team decimated by injuries as far as Christian McCaffrey, best player, hands down on the team, only played in 7 games. Sam Darnold obviously started to struggle when Christian McCaffrey went out, but then he also got hurt for a few games. So the team finished 5-12. This year, their over-under is 6.5. At 6.5, I mean, do you think there's a shot?
It's always a shot, but it's just whether or not they can, they can execute. I think they'll be better than I think people will give them credit for. Just, I mean, the defense is a little better than people give them credit for. It's just what player is Baker Mayfield going to be? And I don't know, man. I think that they're going to Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I mean, I think they're going to, if Baker Mayfield has a bad game or has a stretch of bad games, Sam Darnold might come in. Sam Darnold may play bad. I don't know. It may just be a little seesaw effect going on in the quarterback room. But we'll see, man. But as far as like the wins go, 6.5. I'm not. I mean, I'm probably just going to go with the under just to be safe. I mean, there's still a younger team. So they still got a little probably about another year or so ago before they really start making noise. And also in the division that they're in, they got to go against Tampa Bay twice and New Orleans twice. So I'm chalking those up as losses already. So
yeah, it's tough because they, as you mentioned, like they're a very young, talented team that might still just be a couple years away. And I'm not sure what improvement Baker truly brings to the team. Do I think he's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold? Absolutely. Do I think he is so much better that he instantly adds 5 or 6 wins to us? I don't think so. I think he's kind of a middleman until Matt Corral. I don't know if he's going to be our guy moving forward, but obviously he's out for the season. I'm truly not sure what's going on because obviously Matt rules on the hot seat right now. If this season starts out bad, I don't think he's going to make it the whole season. So then at that point, we have all this young talent. Are we going to start trying to make some moves and move some of that talent and get more picks and do a complete rebuild with bringing in a new coach? Or are we going to keep that young talent there and just try to bring in, a better coach to rebuild things? I don't know, but I think Baker is I'm not sure if Baker's that long-term piece that's going to stick around through all of that. Unfortunately, I am going to have to take the under on this one. I think we're going to finish 5-12 again. And that's some of these games are coin flip games that I'm about to mention, but I think we beat the Browns week 1, strictly based off of emotion, right? Baker's coming in. He has something to prove. But then also just because of the quarterback situation, I agree. Jacoby Brissett, a very serviceable, good quarterback. Not sure if he's a quarterback that's going to win you a game, right? He's not going to lose it, but he's not going to win you a game. And then I have us beating the Giants, the Saints. The Saints is more of like a home and away. Just depends on, what's going on with Jameis Winston. And if he's not there, I'm not even sure who their backup quarterback is.
Andy Dalton.
Oh, Andy Dalton. What are your thoughts on Andy Dalton?
Stellar. No, I'm joking. Andy can, if he has to, be the backup, or if he has to start a game here and there, like he can win you some games. So I think he's capable of doing that. He's won before. He's had a pretty good career when he was a Bengal. So he'll win you some games if it comes down to it.
Yeah, I mean, to be transparent, I was not sure, where he landed, and I had no idea he was down in New Orleans. But then I also have us, beating the Falcons twice, just because I think the Falcons are still early in their rebuilding phase. You got Desmond Ridder and Drake London, 2 very young, talented guys, but it's going to take a while.
Kyle
For
Pitts.
what's that?
Kyle Pitts
Oh,
too.
Kyle Pitts, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Calvin Ridley. I wonder if he's taking the over under on the Falcons wins.
Oh my! I'm sure he's taking the over. I'm sure he is.
um, Pete Rose of football.
To a way lesser extent.
Yeah, for sure.
Way lesser extent.
There's zero reason that he should be out for the whole season. Yeah, I mean the
Yeah,
inconsistency with punishments in the NFL is insane. But
yeah, we can go. That's a whole nother
that's a whole other show. But yeah, so I'm going to take the under. I'm with you. I see 5 games. I could see that being 4 or 6, but I don't see it being 7. So I'm pretty safe or pretty confident with that under pick.
Yeah, but they do play the in division they do play the Saints really tough though. So they did beat them last year. That's when they had Christian McCaffrey. So if he's healthy, obviously the team is a better team. But it's just going to depend on like every team in the NFL is just going to depend on how healthy are you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Let's move on to the leaders of these teams, Joey B and Baker Mayfield. So looking at, we'll start with Joe Burrow. Last year, he finished with 4,611 passing yards, as well as 34 passing touchdowns. This year, they have his passing yard total at 4,375.5 and his touchdowns at 33.5. So touchdowns coming in right about the same number as what he finished with last year, but they actually have him about 230 yards less than what he had last year for passing. What do you think? Over, under on those numbers?
I'm going over on both numbers. Yeah, they got better offensive line, so there'll be more opportunities, to throw the ball for Joey B. I think they started throwing throwing more later in the season. They started throwing more like that. I mean, you've seen the results. T. Higgins, came up big. Tyler Boyd had a couple splash games. So I mean, this is one of the best. They got one of the best receiving trios in the league. So I went like 4,300 yards. I think that should be an easy over. 33 touchdowns. I'm also going to go with easy over as well. And Hayden Hurst at tight end as well. He's going to sneak up on people. People will remember. He was a first round pick at one point. He's been traded a couple times. Landed with Cincinnati. I think it's a really good landing spot for him. So he may have some couple splash games. He may on your fantasy team, get you a couple touchdowns here and there. As a streamer option because nobody's just going to just draft Hayden Hurst. So I think the I'm going easy overs for both for Jody.
I agree, and for all the reasons you just said, that offensive line got better. He was under duress the majority of the times he dropped back to pass. I think you give him some time to really read the defense, get comfortable in the pocket. I think he's going to be able to torch some of these secondaries, to be honest with you. I see him having some huge games, possibly some 4 and 5 touchdown games. So I agree. I think the over on all of these, solid choices here. I think, as you mentioned, they started off the year not throwing nearly as much. So if now that, Zach Taylor is aware of, what this team's capable of, I think that's going to impact, what their offensive game plan is. And not only that, like Joe Mixon as a receiving back out of the backfield, he's not, he's a good option there. So I think that's going to help out with guards too. So I agree, over on both of these, pretty solid choices. The odds on these were even though. So over and under were minus 112 both ways. So it sounds to me like the sports books think that these are going to come in pretty close to what his totals are going to be. But I do see him finishing closer to that 4,700 mark for yards.
Yeah. And, when you got, Jamar Chase on your squad, one of the best receivers, young receivers out here in the game, like surprisingly, like deceptively quick, one of the best yak receivers right now. You know, T. Higgins, one of the best jump ball guys. You know, 50-50 ball guys in the league right now. You got, you know, Tyler Boyd's one of the better slot receivers. So I think it's an easy over.
I like it. Going down to Carolina with Baker. So last year, Baker played in 14 games, threw for 3,010 yards and 17 touchdowns. Keep in mind, though, he had OBJ there, and, you know, there was some chemistry issues there, to say the least, with OBS also, you know, recording parts of practice sessions and whatnot. You know, Jarvis had his struggles. A lot of factors going on down there. This year, they have Baker's yards at 3,600.5 and his touchdowns at 21.5. For yards, the odds are even, -112 either way. However, for touchdowns, they actually have the under favored at -118 and the over at -108. What are your thoughts here?
I think I can see him going over for pass yards and touchdowns. To be frank, he's got. I think this offense will be better suited for him. I think just because with the Browns offense, I don't think it was like a great fit. I don't think he was a great fit for Stefanski and what he was asking him to do. So I think you'll maybe see a healthy Baker and maybe a more loose Baker, or somebody that would go back to the guy that was having fun. It doesn't really have the receive, like, I don't know. You probably have probably about the same caliber receivers. It just depends. DJ Moore is really good. Terrence Marshall, is he going to make a jump this year? Robbie Anderson, whatever. We'll see what kind of Robbie Anderson wants to show up this year, whether it's 2020 or 2021. I don't know. But I can see him coming in, and with Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, that's going to give you your passing yards a boost too, because he's one of the best receiving backs out the backfield if he's healthy. So with all those, I can see him going over in all categories.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little torn on the touchdowns, to be honest, just because I can see Christian McCaffrey, if he is healthy. Unfortunately, Matt Rule's job's on the line, right? So we're going to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey just because of the caliber of player that Christian McCaffrey is. So I do think that could take away some of those touchdown opportunities. I'm still going to go over, but I'm not as confident in that pick. Right. However, with the yards, I think DJ Moore is more of a Jarvis Landry back when he was down in Miami. What he was doing down there, and
what
do you mean? What he solid year down there before he came up to the Browns?
No, I mean I don't know. I think they're two different players though. One's like
I meant stat wise.
Okay.
More so like what he was going to do stat wise.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So,
but he's like another really good yak guy. So once he catch the ball, he can make some things happen. Jarvis, he's going to catch a lot of balls. But he's a tough guy. He's going to catch the tough passes in traffic. But with the yak yards, he's not as good as DJ Moore. So.
Yeah, no, I just think I'm talking about like caliber of season that he could have.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I was just like,
it's on me. I should have articulated it. But then, as you said, Robbie Anderson, before he came to Carolina, he put up huge numbers there in New York that last season with those deep touchdowns. We haven't quite seen that Robbie Anderson yet. I was very excited to have him come in, but I think also just the fact that we haven't really had a good deep ball thrower. If you look at, we had Cam, Teddy, Sam. Not great deep ball guys, and that's Robbie's game, to be honest. He was always a speed guy that was going to beat you deep. But then we also got Higgins. Obviously, I know you talk about Terrence Marshall, but we have Higgins there now too, and Baker has chemistry with him. They played together in Cleveland. But the X factor is Christian McCaffrey. As far as those yards go, Whether Baker throws it 50 yards downfield or does a dump off to Christian McCaffrey and he takes it 50 yards, those are Baker's yards, right? So I think that's the X factor here. And I think that is actually an easy over on these yards here. I see Baker coming closer to 4,000 yards based off Christian McCaffrey alone. I think that's going to add a significant amount to his stats, because if you look 14 games last year, 3,000, you throw Christian McCaffrey in the mix there and you're already, I think that number in 14 games would have been closer to this 3,600. So just my take on it. I think the over is a very, very safe pick there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Has Baker ever been over 4,000 in his career?
I don't know. I think he came close. Let me look.
Maybe came close that his playoff year.
Yeah. I think he did go. I think he went over. Baker stat. No. So 2019 was his closest year. He was 3,827.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that happening, like 38, 3,900 yards. But like I said, this is going to be a different offense for him. So he's not. I mean, he's going to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey, whether that's on the run or whether that's through the air. But it's going to be a different offense for him. So he may see his numbers jump up a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess the other factor is how is he going to respond to this offense? As you said, I mean, it's a new start for him. So this is his opportunity to really show out and show that he's a starter in the NFL. That's to be determined, right? Like, he's been a starter, but I think we're getting to that point where he's either got to show up and perform or he's going to become a backup, and he may become that journeyman around the league, like Sam Bradford.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Carson Wentz.
Well, somehow Carson Wentz keeps getting starting quarterback jobs. So
as he should.
All right. So keeping the conversation down in Carolina, then we'll bounce back to Cincinnati. I know it's a lot of back and forth here, but since we've been talking about Christian McCaffrey, let's look at what they expect for him this year as far as rushing yards go and rushing touchdowns. So last year played in 7 games. We all know he was battling injuries all season. Even when he came back and was back out. 7 games, he had 442 rush yards and 1 touchdown. Surprisingly, Sam Darnold was stealing all the rushing touchdowns at the time. Sam Darnold had another one last night before he got carted off with an ankle injury. So hopefully that works out for Sam. But coming back to Christian McCaffrey, this year his over-under is 875.5 for yards, and for touchdowns it's 7.5. What are your takes here?
Do you think that injury risk played a part in these numbers?
In his numbers last year, or this year? They think he has potential to get injured again?
Yeah, you think so? Because I mean, 875 is pretty low. That's like what, like 50, maybe 50, 60 yards a game.
Yeah, that's it has to, right? Like I would think that when they're making these numbers, that they would have to kind of factor that in, because when I saw these numbers, I was like, anything under 1,000 for him is low. Right. In my opinion. And you're right. I mean, if this was 17 game season, this does equate to just over 50 yards a game. I think it's like 52 yards a game. And I think he's more than capable of, I mean, he may get 50 yards on a single run on some games. So,
but I think you think also that the offensive line, may play a part in there in that too. The offensive line is going to be a little bit of a struggle this year. Do you think they may have played a part in that?
I mean, I think it's possible. But even looking at, I think our offensive line this year got a little bit better. We didn't make huge improvements, but if you look at 7 games last year, and I'm pretty sure one of those games he went out fairly early in the game, he was averaging over 60 yards a game at that time. So like, even with the bad offensive line, I feel like these numbers are almost disrespectfully low.
Yeah, no, I wonder what his receiving totals is as well, because maybe that may also play a part. I mean, I'm sorry I'm asking all these questions, but it's just like those numbers feel really low for a talent like Christian McCaffrey.
I think that they have his total yards from scrimmage around 1,600. So
Okay. So they're saying about 800 yards rushing and passing. I mean,
yeah,
rushing and receiving this year.
yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll say over just because like as far as rushing yards go, just because the talent he is like 50 yards. You said 800, 875, right?
875.5.
Yeah, it's like 50 yards a game, like just over 50 yards a game. Um, I can see him getting that at minimum. You know, like that's probably his floor. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I can see you know with talent like Christian McCaffrey, he's going to a healthy Christian McCaffrey. He's going to have games where you know he's going to rush for 90 yards, 100 yards. You know, he may have games where he rush for 50. So I think that's his floor. Obviously, his ceiling is astronomical. You know, we talk about the talent that Christian McCaffrey has and his explosion. So yeah, I think 875.5 is low though. I think injury and his offensive line and just his his receiving prowess may have played a part in that number. But I'm still gonna go with the over here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as I said, I mean, these numbers seem disrespectful to me for a talent like Christian McCaffrey, and I understand that they're factoring in some receiving in there, but still, I agree. I mean, his floor is probably 50 yards. You know, and again, I'm actually going to go on record saying I don't think he'll have a game where he has under 65 yards rushing. And hey, that's
Hey,
right. Hey, you don't have to agree. I'm just saying.
hey, he does play the Saints.
Hey, that's fine.
And the Bucks.
That's fine.
Those are really
I'm telling you,
good.
hey, because all it takes for him is to break out one time and he'll pick up a 40-yard chunk. I mean, he can grind away another 25 yards. And then 7.5 rushing touchdowns. He's gonna have that met by week 4. Week 4, he'll have 8 touchdowns.
Oh,
Week
spicy.
4.
Write it down.
I'm writing it down. Week 4 over.
That's 2 touchdowns. He's going to score two rushing touchdowns like the first 4 weeks.
Yes.
Woo.
There's the Browns. Hot take here.
Let's go.
Browns. He's going to have three rushing touchdowns, possibly 4 total touchdowns
Against the Browns.
Against the Browns, and that's Myles Garrett. That's Jadeveon Clowney. That's that whole defense.
Whew. That's heavy. That's heavy.
Calling it, man.
That's a hot take for sure.
You heard it here first. Bourbon and bets. I haven't even started drinking bourbon yet today, so that's a clear state of mind.
Yeah. So hey, we'll see how that goes. I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, that's a hot take. So that's what it is.
I wonder what those odds are. I'm gonna see if that's up yet.
8 touchdowns in 4 weeks, rushing touchdowns.
8 rushing touchdowns, 4 weeks.
And, and it's not out of this world, like because it's it's CMC, but I think that maybe you have some receiving touches as well. Like 8 total touchdowns, maybe, but 8 rushing, that's pretty heavy. Do you think that Sam Darnold not taking any way of his touchdowns has something to do with that as well?
What do you mean?
Last year, Sam Darnold had like 5 rushing touchdowns like the first 3 weeks or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So obviously with his health and Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield not being the athlete that Sam Darnold is, so you saying that Christian is going to have 8 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns.
8 rushing touchdowns by week 4, by the end of week 4.
And is it just? I think that's Carolina Panthers fandom going to your head too. But hey,
I think there's the factor of also he has to prove to people that he can still do it, right? Like everyone's talking about how he's so injury prone, he's made of glass, and no one can take a chance on him, and has all that talent but can't stay on the field. I think this is his season also where he's going to bounce back and start silencing some people. And I think he has a chip on his shoulder now. I know there's been talks about him talking to Marshall Faulk and how to protect his body and stay healthier and not deliver as many hits and maybe step out of bounds more often. But I just think ultimately that if we get the ball inside the 5, he's gonna be the go-to, right? Because he's gonna get you 5 yards. Now I guess the other side of it could be that, it could be a passing touchdown, so, or a receiving touchdown. So I'm sticking by it though. I almost just talked myself out of it with the receiving thing, but
got to.
standing by it. So by week 4, Christian McCaffrey will be over. Headed back up to Cincinnati from Carolina, though. Let's talk about Mixon. So Joe Mixon last year, 1,205 yards rushing, 13 rushing touchdowns. This year they have his rushing total at 1,075 and a half, and his rushing touchdowns at 9.5. And the over of the rushing touchdowns is actually favored at minus 126, and the unders 102. Yards were even at minus 112. So what are your takes on your guy that's leading the backfield?
I'm gonna go over on yards. I think he'll just slightly get over on yards, and I'm going under for touchdowns. So I think he'll get 8 touchdowns. Probably about 1,100 yards. Like, this is better offensive line that the Bengals have this year. So especially with La'el Collins, he's definitely going to open up some holes for Joe Mixon. So as far as last year goes, he had a really good year as far as like touchdowns. So I think we'll see a little bit of regression. So he probably drop down to the mean a little bit. So I think we'll have 8 touchdowns, and also just going back to what we're talking about with Joe Burrow. I think they'll pass a little bit more this year with all the receiving weapons that they have, and trusting Joey B and him being healthy with him, with the better offensive line. So I think they'll pass a little bit more this year. So Joe, I think we'll have a longer. More than 1,075, but I think he'll regress to the mean a little bit with 8 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I have him at 1,100 yards, so I have him going over. I think that's a good number. 1,075 is really close there. And I agree. I think he is going to take a step back with touchdowns, but I see him probably finishing. It was tough for me because I see 9 or 10, right? So like this 9.5 puts me right there. I'm just going to lean towards the over just because I'd love to see him go over, for him and his stats. But there is that factor of the passing game. One of the best receiving groups in the NFL, better offensive line. I think the Bengals are going to be a very exciting offense to watch this year just because of what their passing attack is going to be able to do. So that does, make me a little more uncertain about my picks there, but I'm gonna stick with the over on each.
Let's go.
Speaking of that passing attack, last year rookie Jamar Chase came in and had 1,455 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. This year they have him at 1,225.5 receiving yards. That's even odds at minus 112 for the over or the under. And then touchdowns, they have them at 10.5. They are favoring the under on yards. Actually, on touchdowns. They're favoring under 10.5 at minus 118, whereas the over is minus 105. What are you taking for this?
I'm going to go over on yards, and probably I'm going to take the under on touchdowns again. And I know it's going to sound weird. I just think that, as the season goes on, they're going to stop. I think defense are going to try to stop T. Higgins and Jamar Chase a little bit more, so which opens things up a little bit for Tyler Boyd. So that's the only reason why I think touchdowns will probably regress a little bit this year. But I do see him going over on yards just because he's just a yak monster guy that take a slant to the house, take a slant 50, 60 yards. So I think yards. I think 1,200. I think that's pretty low. After he got 1,400 last year, in the last game he didn't even play. He just got that one catch to just go over, get the rookie record. Then he stopped playing. So he basically got 1,400 yards in 16 games. So 16 games because this year they had the extra game. So yeah, I'm going with over on yards. Just I think he'll regress a little bit. I think the Joy has spread the wealth a little bit when it comes to passing touchdowns.
I agree. I think I'm actually going to go. I hate to do it, but I think I'm going to go under in both just because I think everything's going to be spread out so much. I think it's that, we might see 3,000-yard receivers down there with Boyd, Higgins, and Chase. And then, as you mentioned, like Hayden Hurst is there, and I do think people forget that he was, a first-round pick at one point when he was, with Baltimore. I think he's going to be a nice dump-off option, and then it'll be interesting to see how much they incorporate Joe Mixon into the passing game as well. I mean, 1,200 yards is, I don't think it's unattainable for Jamar Chase. I think it's gonna be more difficult with the options that are there. So I think this is my first under pick of the day. So I'm gonna go under on both of these.
And as far as Jamar Chase go, Jamar Chase last year was the biggest fantasy football finesse of all time. It's just like I think in our league, he got picked in the 10th round or something like that. Yeah. That's why you can't get caught up in the media. You're just talking about all these drop balls. You got to go in and look, really see what's going on. So I was a fool of that myself. I was like, oh man, this dude didn't even play last year. I wanted Penei Sewell. Obviously, that made me look like a fool. So I'm so.
Well, Penei Sewell is a pretty solid offensive lineman.
Yeah, but yes. I wanted Penei Sewell, but Jamar Chase is a generational talent. So yeah, glad we got him. Don't fall into the media. Can't always listen to what the media say. You got to really look and see what's going on. I got caught up in those clips. Like, oh man, this dude dropped 3 passes. You can't see
the lines on the ball.
Can't see the lines. The lines on the ball is not like it was on college. So yeah, you got to really see what's going on out there. Take the media with a grain of salt. The guy was a baller. So yeah, he had to be one of the biggest fantasy football finesses ever last year. Because if you had him. Or even Cooper Kupp also, he was getting taken 5th, 6th, 7th round, some drafts. If you had both of them on your team, you probably won your league last year.
Oh, without question. Or if you didn't, then you just bombed the rest of the draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Drafted Tebow at tight end or something.
I hope I did that. It was cut first, after the first or second preseason game anyway. So
yeah, hey, some people do their drafts before even the first preseason game. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, us best ball guys, doing the drafts before the preseason ends. What's wrong with us?
Who cares? I've done 8 drafts before any of the games happen. All right, man. Let's wrap this up back down in Carolina with DJ Moore. Last year, and keep in mind that last year, a lot of quarterback questions, right? To start the season, Sam Darnold was running the ball in for all of his touchdowns, and then he gets hurt. PJ Walker comes in, has his struggles, does okay considering the situation, right? But last year, DJ Moore finished with 1,157 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. This year, they have him at 1,100.5 with even odds at -112 and receiving touchdowns at 5.5, even odds on the over-under at -112 there as well. What are your thoughts here?
Question. Do you think that that the quarterback is the best quarterback that DJ Moore had in his career?
Yes, because if you think about it, when he came in, he had Cam at the end of Cam's run there in Carolina, and when Cam struggled tremendously, Cam
Newton.
Cam Newton can't throw a slant pass, man.
Oh,
he throws a slant pass at 900 miles an hour. He does that thing where he lifts his shoulder up and then comes around and why do you need that much power, man? And it wasn't accurate. It was in the dirt 90% of the time. And then Cam's deep ball just became trash. yeah, I mean, yeah, that was rough. And then Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like he never really got a fair shot there. I feel like Teddy Bridgewater, ever since his injury, has kind of gotten the Tyrod Taylor treatment. Kind of comes in and then just can't get any love. But
oh Lord.
And then, you know, obviously Sam Darnold had his problems, also got hurt, but you know, then Christian McCaffrey also wasn't there. I feel like this is the best, not necessarily just even the best quarterback he's had. I think this is the best situation that DJ Moore's been in. Healthy receiving core, Christian McCaffrey's back, Baker Mayfield, much more serviceable quarterback than what Sam Darnold is. I think this is the best situation DJ Moore's been in.
Interesting. All right. With that said, I can see him going over. He went over. I mean, he had 1,100 yards last year. So I mean, I think he's still. I mean, he's still in his prime. Still going to get better. So I got him going over in both his yards and touchdowns. I know he had low touchdowns. He hasn't really scored a whole bunch of touchdowns in his career, but I can see that progressing a little bit. So I think he'll have. We'll have more touchdowns than we said 5.5, right?
5.5.
I can at least see 6 touchdowns. So and then 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards should be well attainable for a talent like DJ Moore.
I agree. I think the yards are probably close. I think that he's going to be somewhere around 1,100 to 1,200 yards, pending Baker's play. But I actually feel like the touchdowns are disrespectful given the situation. I see DJ Moore finishing the year with like 8 or 9 touchdowns. So I think this is an easy over as far as touchdowns go.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Like, you know, guy that, you know, kind of has a really good skill set as far as like he can catch pass in traffic. He can, you know, he can separate. He can catch a screen pass and he can take it the distance. So he's one of the more underrated guys in the league. If he played on another team, probably get more credit. But I think it's contract year for him too. So that's something we got to think about as well as far as like motivation goes. So I think he'll have a really good year.
Also, I mean, the other factor is, I mean, going back to the win totals, I have them going 5-12. So they're going to be playing from behind quite a bit more than likely. So lots of opportunities for a lot of catches, a lot of yards, and then some potential garbage time touchdowns too. Because, you know, if they're down by, you know, 20 going into the last 5 minutes of the fourth, like we're going to be throwing the ball, and, you know, he might be able to get some of those late game touchdowns. Not to take away from his talent and his ability. I think just based off ability alone, without that, he could get 8 or 9 touchdowns. But I think that's also in his benefit as much as it isn't great for Carolina. But what else you got, man? Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
So are you drafting T. Higgins or DJ Moore first in your fantasy drafts?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, just because he's just the number one guy?
Yeah, volume alone, just because the ball doesn't have to be spread out as much.
I can see that happening.
What about you?
I don't know. It's tough. I think that Teague is in a better situation. So obviously, like I said, he's one of the better. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he had more touchdowns than DJ Moore. So it just depends on. Also depend on the league you're in, if it's PPR or half PPR. So that may make a difference. DJ Moore may have more catches, but T. Higgins may have more touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree. I think just the whole offensive situation with Joe Burrow versus Baker Mayfield, like T. Higgins does have a better quarterback throwing to him.
You know, Baker Mayfield is undefeated against Joe Burrow.
That's something you got to think about. That's something you have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Avery, that's going to wrap things up for today. As always, I appreciate you jumping on. For the listeners out there, if you have not done so yet, please go check out the YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, we greatly appreciate that. But if you could go over to the YouTube channel and like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. Comments are probably one of the most helpful things for us, just because it shows engagement with the video. And, you know, with YouTube's algorithms, that helps us move up the charts. Follow us on Instagram. As the season starts to kick off, we will start having a lot more of our picks posted on there. We're also on Facebook. For anyone over the age of, 45, we understand that's your go-to social media platform. I'm also on Facebook. I'm 32, but I live the life of like a 60-year-old.
60-year-old and 60-year-old body.
That's right. Look at his hairline, man. But yeah, so go ahead and do that. We appreciate all of that. We appreciate all the engagement. Again, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I did, appreciate all the messages that I got, saying that, a lot of you agree with, what we had said. A fan favorite pick was my pick of the Chargers winning the Super Bowl. So there's a big following for that one. But again, I could talk for hours, but sum it all up, we just greatly appreciate you, especially with our goals with what we want to do with this and grow it and, become definitely the number one gambling podcast in Columbus, number one in Ohio, and then number one in the United States. That's the ultimate goal as we continue to grow this. So you all are, what makes that happen. So we appreciate you. But that's going to wrap things up. We will, we're not far away from the start of the regular season. So we will be coming back on and making some picks here soon. We got not next weekend, but the weekend after is when everything kicks off. So on this next episode, we'll be talking probably some college football picks. So that's what I got. Avery, thanks again. And we will talk to everybody on the next episode.